The room smells like cigarette smoke and damp concrete. Pablo Escobar is sitting across from you, not at a desk, not on a throne, just in a plastic chair under a single bulb hanging from a wire, and he is looking at you the way he looks at no one else. He slides something across the table. Not money, not a weapon, a name on a folded piece of paper. You open it, you read it, and for the first time in 11 years of never once failing Pablo Escobar, your hands go cold. Because the name on that paper is your sister's. You look up at him. He is already watching your face. He says, "I'm asking you because you're the only man I trust to do it." That sentence is the most dangerous thing anyone has ever said to you, not because of what it asks, because of what it took 11 years to earn, and what it is now asking you to destroy. To understand how you got here, you have to go back to a clay street in Medellin, back to the beginning of everything. Subscribe right now so you don't miss how this ends, because the beginning is the only place that explains the rest. It is 1987. You are 17 years old. Manrique, eastern hillside of Medellin, where the roads stop being paved and start being mud paths that flood when it rains. Two-room house. Your mother, your younger sister Valentina, a gas burner that works 3 days out of 7. Your father has been gone since you were 9. Nobody ever gave that a clean explanation. You are not special in the way that stories need their protagonists to be special. You are smart, and you are quiet, and you are hungry. Smart in the way poor neighborhoods produce smart people, not from books but from reading the world at close range before it reads you first. Valentina is 12. She is the kind of kid who laughs at everything and trusts everyone, which in Manrique is a combination that worries you even then. You tell yourself you will get them out. Your mother, your sister, out of the 2 rooms, out of the clay streets. You just need money. You just need an opportunity. You tell yourself it will not cost much. The man who notices you is named Mauricio, 24 years old, clean shoes on the clay streets, which in this neighborhood means someone is paying careful attention to small things, which means someone can afford to. He asks you one afternoon if you know how to keep your mouth shut. You say yes. He tells you to come back at 7 in the morning. You go home. You don't sleep. You go back at 7. For 3 months you run envelopes and packages across 12 blocks. You are never caught. Not once. You understand without anyone telling you that not being caught is the only credential that matters here. Survival is the resume. By 19 you are working for a man called El Duro. Lean, 31, almost entirely silent. He gives you your first weapon, a .38 revolver, worn grip, and tells you it is for the work, not for yourself, and that the difference between those two things is a line you should never blur. 4 days pass before anything requires it. In those 4 days you sleep with it under your mattress and feel the weight pressing up through the springs every hour of the night. When the moment comes, you do not hesitate. That is what surprises you most. A man in Aranjuez has been skimming from a collection route. You go with 2 others. The man understands the moment you walk through his door. He starts talking. They always do. You will learn. Because talking is what the body does when it runs out of other options. You don't talk back. You wait for El Duro's nod. Then you do what the situation requires. Nobody dies. That is not what this moment needs. It needs a message. The message lands. Walking out into the night air, you feel something you were not expecting. Not guilt. Not pride. Clarity. The understanding that you are capable of being exactly the kind of person this world needs you to be. That clarity will carry you forward. It will also cost you more than you can imagine. You send money home. Valentina gets new shoes for school. Your mother asks no questions. You let her ask none. By 22, you have a reputation for one thing. When you are given an order, it gets done. Not loudly, not messily. It gets done. You don't brag about jobs. You don't drink after them. You don't need anyone to tell you that you did well. That self-sufficiency, that silence, is unusual enough that people above El Duro begin to notice. You are posted outside a property in Poblado one afternoon. Perimeter watch, 4 hours, nothing happens. But at 12:40, a convoy of 3 vehicles passes your position, and through the rear window of the second car, for 3 seconds, you see Pablo Escobar's face. He looks tired. Not weak, human. The specific kind of human that people carrying enormous power look when they believe no one is watching. You file that away. Persons are more dangerous than myths. Myths don't make decisions. 6 months later, El Duro tells you a name went upward. Yours. He tells you to wear something clean. You iron your one good shirt. You don't sleep. The meeting is in a restaurant in Laurelli's. White tablecloths, ceiling fan, the smell of arepas. A heavy-set man with a thick mustache is already seated. He orders coffee, looks at you, and asks 2 questions. The first is about a problem you identified and quietly fixed on a collection road 8 months ago. He wants to know how you found it. You explain briefly. He nods. The second question: what would you do if someone you had worked beside for 2 years turned out to be informing? You don't hesitate. You tell him exactly what you would do and why. He stands. He says, "Someone wants to know your face." His name is Gustavo Gaviria, Pablo's cousin, the man who built the financial architecture of everything. You don't know that yet. 2 weeks later, a car arrives at 6 in the morning. Pablo is already in the room when you arrive, standing, reading something. He finishes before he acknowledges you. When he looks up, the intelligence behind his eyes is immediate. He says, "You fixed a problem before anyone above you knew it existed, and you didn't tell anyone until it was finished. Why?" You say, "Reporting a problem before you have the solution wastes everyone's time and creates worry you haven't earned yet." He almost smiles. The private kind, the expression of a man who spends most of his time being disappointed. "Come back Thursday," he says. You go back Thursday, and Thursday after that. Pablo tests everyone. He tests you slowly, across small moments, across months. He sends you on assignments with no context and watches whether you ask questions. You don't. He gives you information he has not given others and watches whether it travels. It doesn't. He puts you in rooms with men who are lying to him and says nothing, then asks you afterward what you noticed. You tell him exactly what you saw. He begins calling you by your first name. He gives you a job directly, not through intermediaries, not through a chain of command, directly. A rival distributor moving product through northern Medellin, who has been operating inside cartel territory without authorization and has twice sent word that he will not stop. Pablo hands you a photograph across a table and says 4 words: "Handle it. No noise." 3 days later, the problem no longer exists. Pablo doesn't thank you. He simply gives you the next assignment himself. That is how you know the relationship has changed. Over the following years, your name inside the organization becomes associated with one specific idea. If Pablo gave him the order, it's done. No failure, no excuse, no complications brought back to the table. You don't love what you are, but you understand what you have built. And you understand that what you have built is the only thing keeping you alive. Valentina is studying now. Your mother has a proper apartment, gas stove, hot water. They know nothing. That is the one wall you have maintained through everything. One evening in 1989, Pablo says, "The people I trust most are the ones afraid enough to be honest." You have both in the right proportion. You smile. You don't tell him the truth, that what you feel in rooms with him is not exactly fear, and not exactly anything else. It is the recognition that you are standing next to a force of nature that gave you everything and could take it with the same ease. You have seen what it does to the people it takes it from. By 1991, the country is actually at war. Car bombs, assassinated judges, police officers killed for bounties paid on the spot. Pablo surrenders in June. A private prison he designed himself above Envigado, no extradition, 5-year cap. The press calls it Hotel Escobar. Inside the organization, everyone understands it is a tactical move. You visit twice. The operation continues. He escapes in July of '92 when the government tries to transfer him. He walks into the mountains above Medellin and disappears. The search block forms. DEA intelligence, American surveillance technology, one mandate. Then Los Pepes starts operating. Associates, lawyers, anyone connected to Pablo, systematically eliminated. No trials. Your name appears on a version of their list. You learn this through 3 intermediaries on a Tuesday morning, and by Tuesday evening you have changed everything. Location, phone, routine. You move residences every 3 days. You stop using phones except through intermediaries who don't know your face. Gustavo Gaviria is killed by the search block in the Laurelli's neighborhood. The man who first brought your name to Pablo, gone. The door he opened closes permanently. Around you, The structure is contracting. Everyone who helped build it is dead, imprisoned, or hiding. You keep your head down. You survive. That is what you have always done. And then in November of 1993, the driver comes again. No explanation. Just a car, an address, a 40-minute drive through streets you recognize less than you once did. The neighborhood is forgettable by design. Terracotta rooftops, narrow streets, the sound of someone's television through a closed window. Nothing here would suggest who lives inside. Pablo has lost weight. The beard is fuller, less kept. He looks like a man who has been running long enough that it shows in the structure of his face. But the eyes are the same. He tells you to sit. You sit. He is quiet for almost a full minute. In 11 years, you have never seen him quiet like this. Not calculating. Something more like the stillness of a decision already made that simply needs to be delivered. He slides the piece of paper across the table. You unfold it. You read the name. Your sister, Valentina. The room does not change. The bulb keeps burning. Pablo keeps watching your face. But something inside you collapses in a way you have no vocabulary for, because you have spent 11 years making sure the cartel never reached her. 11 years of deliberate distance, deliberate silence, deliberate lies told to keep her name out of every room you have ever been in. Pablo says, 3 weeks ago she was seen leaving a property we use in Envigado. A contact reported she spoke with someone on the exterior. We don't know what she saw. We don't know what she heard. But she was there. You already know what happened. You know because you were the one who asked her to drop something at that address. A package, ordinary, nothing sensitive, or so you believed. A favor routed through channels you thought were clean. A mistake so small it should not exist. But in this world, small mistakes are the ones that reach the people you were protecting. Pablo says, I'm not asking because you're someone I can ask. I'm asking because you're the only man I trust to do it. And there is the sentence. The sentence that contains 11 years. Because it is exactly true. He is asking you because you have never failed him. Because your reliability is the thing he values most. Because the very quality that made you indispensable is the thing now being used against you. The trust you spent a decade building is not a reward. It is the instrument of your destruction. You fold the paper. You put it in your pocket. You stand. You tell Pablo Escobar you will take care of it. He nods. Just once. You walk out. If this story is doing something to you, you're not alone. Drop a comment and hit like, because what happens next is what this whole story has been moving toward. Outside, the afternoon is amber and ordinary. Children somewhere. The smell of something frying. You sit in the back of the car and the driver says nothing, because drivers in this world learned long ago that silence is the safest language. You have 3 days. That is the unspoken clock on an order like this. 3 days before confirmation is expected, before the absence of an answer becomes its own kind of answer. You think about Valentina at 12 years old, laughing at everything. You think about the shoes you bought her with the first money Mauricio ever paid you. You think about the wall you built between her world and yours, and the single moment of carelessness that brought them together. You think about Pablo. The search block is closing tighter every week. The phones he keeps using to talk to his family are the phones that will locate him. You have known this for months. The empire is falling from the inside and the outside simultaneously, and Pablo, who survived everything for 15 years, cannot survive both at once. The car stops. You get out. You stand on the sidewalk. You take the paper from your pocket. You read the name one last time. Then you make the only decision that was always going to be this decision. You don't walk toward her. Not directly. Not in any way that connects her location to any route the cartel knows. You spend the next 14 hours moving through the city the way water moves, through channels too small to monitor, until you reach her. You tell her only what she needs to know, that she must leave. Different city, different name. Now, she looks at your face and does not ask why, because she has always been smarter than she let on, and she has always known, somewhere below the surface, that the wall between your lives was held up by your hands alone. She goes. You disappear in a different direction. On the second day, the news arrives through a relay so old and indirect it takes 3 hours to verify. December 2nd, 1993. A house in the Los Olivos neighborhood. Pablo stayed too long on the phone with his son. The call ran 90 seconds past safe. The search block triangulated the signal. Officers breached the front door. Pablo ran across the rooftops barefoot. He was shot through the leg, through the torso, and finally through the right ear. He fell on the terracotta tile and did not get up. You sit with that information in a rented room under a name that is not yours, in a city that is not Medellin. The man who built everything, the man who gave you every opportunity and used every one of them as a link in a chain you couldn't see until it was fully assembled. Dead on a rooftop in a neighborhood no one would have chosen for him, located by a phone call he made because he loved his children. The empire fractures within weeks. The Cali cartel fills the vacuum. The enforcement structures mutate and continue. The roots survive. The people who built them almost never do. You are one of the exceptions. You do not know yet what to do with that. Somewhere in another city, Valentina is alive. She does not know everything. She knows enough. You will find a way to reach her eventually, through channels careful enough that they lead nowhere dangerous. You will sit across from her in a room that smells like nothing in particular. No cigarette smoke, no damp concrete. And she will look at you like she is trying to find the brother she remembers underneath the person you became. He is in there. What remains of him? You spend 11 years believing that earning Pablo Escobar's trust was the closest thing this life offered to safety. You were right about the trust. You were wrong about what it meant. The closer Pablo pulled you in, the more of yourself you handed over, and the more you handed over, the more impossible it became to walk away, until the only exit left was the one that required losing everything the trust had been built to protect. 11 years. One final order, and the only reason you are sitting in this ordinary room, in this ordinary city, breathing ordinary air, is that when it mattered most, you chose your sister over the most dangerous man you had ever known. Pablo Escobar died on a rooftop in a forgettable neighborhood, running from a phone call he made out of love, and you survived by making the same kind of choice, one that had nothing to do with power, and everything to do with the one person you never stopped being willing to lose everything for. That is not a clean ending, but it is the only honest one. What you thought was loyalty was a slow erasure. What you thought was power was a cage built one promotion at a time. And what finally set you free was not courage or defiance. It was a name on a piece of paper, and the fact that you still recognized it as something worth saving. If this story stayed with you, drop a comment and hit the like button. It genuinely helps. And the video appearing on your screen right now follows another man who thought proximity to power was the same as protection. He found out the same way you did, when it was almost too late.